The Atlanta Falcons came into the 2023 NFL season with such high expectations and division title hopes, but unfortunately they are going into the 2024 offseason looking for a new head coach and a new quarterback as well. Ryan and I, we are going to break down the 2023 Atlanta Falcons season and also preview the 2024 offseason and some of the team needs, key free agents, and their overall draft picks and what we think they might do with these draft picks. So be sure to stay and watch for the whole video. But before we get into that, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified whenever we create new Falcons content. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the postseason. So like, subscribe, and help us reach our goal. And Ryan, let's pull up the slide here. As you can tell, I am a Falcons fan, and we are recording this January 8th, so 24 hours after, actually technically January 9th, so very close to 24 hours after Arthur Smith got fired, because he got fired at 12:01 a.m. on January 8th. And I'll just say I'm completely indifferent with the firing. I kind of was giving him the benefit of the doubt personally, just because of the quarterback play by Desmond Ridder. But then at the same time, there so many different times throughout the season that I could probably recall a play, be like, what type of play call was that? And I felt like, and definitely see this on Falcons Twitter a bunch, and I can agree with it. We have all these weapons, and yet we're throwing it to Scotty Miller or like trying to get Mecole Pruitt out into the open here and use everybody else's decoys. Don't get me wrong, I like those guys. I think they're good pieces, but it just felt odd and off, so to say here. These are the team statistics overall throughout the season, the team passing, offense, running, and sacks. And I think the thing to me that really sticks out to me overall is the turnover ratio. Just only 16 turnovers, less than one a game that we got, or takeaways, I should say, while we had 28, close to 2 turnovers a game. And that to me, I think, and that's where I was trying to give Arthur Smith the benefit of the doubt a little bit, because Desmond Ridder just had so many freaking turnovers throughout the season, just so many unnecessary ones. I felt like some were unfortunate, like in the game against Tampa Bay, the first one, where he's running into the end zone. And honestly, I think one of his best games that season, but he had 3 fumbles in that game, one of which was just, I think, an unlucky one, the fact that he didn't cross the plane yet, but also careless as well. It's stuff like that where I felt like just kept happening throughout the season with the quarterback play, where it was just completely inconsistent. But then at the same time, so was the play calling. So I get changes needed to be made, and I think it's probably going to be for the best, because when I look at this Falcons team, we had one of the better defenses in the league. I know we were a little bit higher on the running side as well. I think a lot of that had to do with, the last game against the Saints, but also to the Bears as well. And I think our secondary was so good with the addition of Jesse Bates. AJ Terrell's one of the better corners in the league. Jeff Okudah, I think, had a solid season. Clark Phillips, I think, was a good 4th-round pick from the last draft class. Also, on top of that, too, Caden Ellis was a phenomenal free agent signing. I'm looking forward to seeing him play next year. Also, Nate Landman really stepped up, and he was a good linebacking core. So, like, our linebackers and secondary were great, and I think matched up really well with our defensive front with Grady Jarrett and Calais Campbell. But Grady Jarrett, unfortunately, got hurt against the Tennessee game in Week 8 or something like that, which was a huge blow to our team. But even then, too, David Onyemata, I thought, was a great addition to the team. If there's an area I think that the Falcons need to improve on, I think this is like one. Maybe it's just our curse, but we just cannot seem to find an edge rusher since Vic Beasley's defensive player of the year season. Calais Campbell is one of the best edge rushers I think I've ever seen. Dude's massive. We were at that Colts-Falcons game on Christmas Eve, and the dude is huge. We're up in the nosebleeds, and like, yep, that's Calais Campbell. We see him running onto the field. So that's going to be one of the team needs I have on the next slide when we get there. But if we can re-sign Calais Campbell, if he doesn't want to go into retirement, but would love to get him back, because he I think was a crucial part, I think, to this team staying competitive after Grady Jarrett went down. So I've been talking a lot. So before we get kind of to the preseason kind of preview, what are your overall thoughts on the Falcons 2023 season?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that sticks out to me is you look at what you guys did last offseason. draft Bijan Robinson, then you draft Matthew Bergeron in the second round. And then you were the number 1 rushing team in the league last year, and then you fall all the way back to 9th. Being a top 10 rushing team is still really good. Don't get me wrong, but I felt like you guys kind of got away from you set yourselves up to be this heavy run team and really grind down defenses, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah,
and you guys still ran the ball really well, obviously at 9th. I just felt like that was an odd thing this year, and also just the mistakes. You guys were top 10 in the league in turnovers, total turnovers on offense, and you're not going to win many football games playing at that level or playing like that. And then also running the running defense. I do feel like teams probably picked on that more because that was the lesser of two evils in y'all's defense, just because your passing defense was top 10.
Yeah, especially in the second half too, with Grady Jarrett going down.
Yeah, and I do think adding an edge rusher would help that a lot, or a better edge player to go alongside Calais Campbell when Grady Jarrett comes back. David Onyemata is still under contract, so it's a really good unit that is there, and I just think that they would get better. Also, too, only having 42 sacks, being 21st in that category, definitely want to look to improve that, and that'll help all defensive statistics.
Well,
is getting more sacks.
I hate to break it to you, but it was an improvement. So that's actually going in the right direction.
yeah. So let's move on now to kind of some of the offseason needs. I'll let you go through this. You're the resident Falcons fan, so this is your video. Take it away.
Yeah, so Calais Campbell is the number one. If we're able to re-sign him, I would hate to see him go somewhere else. Like if he retires, I get that, but I hate to see him go somewhere else here with just the chemistry I feel like the entire defense had when healthy. Another guy too as well would love to see re-sign and should be very, very affordable. Nate Landman, undrafted free agent, came in with Troy Anderson going out, our second round pick from a couple years ago, and played absolutely phenomenal. Him and Caden Ellis were just an amazing tandem here, and he played so hard. I think a crucial part to why our defense stayed so successful throughout the season with all the injuries that we were facing. Cordell Patterson, he is going to hit the free agency market here. I like him a lot, but if we don't re-sign him, I don't think that's that big of a deal, especially with now we have Bijan and Tyler Algier. Contavious Street, I mentioned as well, just another defensive edge guy. We got him in that trade. And I included Matt Collins, Van Jefferson, and Scotty Miller to kind of reiterate and I think kind of segue into what I would hope the Falcons do if we are not able to get a quarterback with the first pick, and that is to get a number 2 receiver. And the way how I'm thinking about it is you do have if we aren't able to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks, so that's 3 picks right there. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, that's 5 picks. I'm going to think Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt will be at 1 pick, and I think Brock Bowers might be a pick before that. Or of those 3 names, 2 of those guys will be selected before then. So I'm looking at a guy like Rome Odunze, who I think would be a perfect complement to Drake London and also Kyle Pitts as well. One of the best route runners, I think, in this entire class. And one of the best contested catch guys. I think he would just fit perfectly for the offensive skill position players out here. I also think any new head coach or offensive-minded coach or new offensive coordinator would see now all the offensive weapons that we have and be like, man, I could do a lot with this. I need to go get a quarterback. And so in that scenario, we probably would go and trade for Justin Fields or maybe go and get another interesting guy. I mean, maybe I think who else could be of interest there if we don't go and get one of those top guys. Sam Howell, maybe. Mac Jones, I think, would be interesting. Don't really like those options, but still, I think Justin Fields is going to be the guy.
Those are better options than what you have currently.
Yes, I agree. So it would be a major improvement. So and potentially maybe if some guys fall, like if Bo Nix falls into the second round, Michael Penix maybe falls in the second round, I can see him maybe taking a flyer on those guys. But I just think I would rather go offensive just with the way the league's going with where the team needs to go and get that skill position player here. And that's also kind of been the MO of Terry Fontenot, I think, of going and get the best player available. And I really like Dallas Turner. I really like some of those edge rushers that I think are going to go in the first round. But I think if we're going by best talent available, I think Rome Odunze would be the guy that I would rather go and get and what he would bring to the table. That is all assuming as well that we don't go up and go and get a quarterback here, which I am all for. I'm absolutely all for. We kind of had this debate the other day on like I don't think the Falcons or you don't think the Falcons will do what the Panthers did because look at how it turned out for the Panthers here. Horrible situation, and they can't even go and try and improve really that much with the draft capital that they have. And I actually think the Falcons are more appropriate to go and trade up and go give up a couple first-round picks to go and trade to go get Caleb Williams or Drake May. Or if they don't want to go all the way up there, go trade with the Chargers, who I think are in an interesting spot to go and get Jaden Daniels. The Falcons would go get Jaden Daniels. The Chargers would just go and get draft capital because they need that, or the Giants as well. So I think they're in a very unique spot here. I'm just kind of listing off what I think that I would prefer for them to do. I will say if you're a new head coach and you come in with this talent, I also think too with the GM and after listening to Rich McKay and Arthur Blank, I think that they're going to be aggressive this offseason, and I think they're going to see if Justin Fields is on the table. How much are they? How much is he going to be? If it's just a second rounder and some change, I think they might take that because they have Jacksonville's third, potentially even a second, if they want to re-sign Calvin Ridley based on that trade stipulations. If Justin Fields isn't on the table, that means that one of those quarterbacks, Chicago's not going to be taking a quarterback. So potentially they could go and trade up to that number one spot and be really aggressive. And you'd go get Caleb Williams or Drake May or whichever quarterback that they want, and you would get him into this offensive system with Bijan Robinson in the backfield with him, Tyler Algier, who I think's still one of the better running backs in the league. I think that's a great running back tandem. An offensive line that is above average. I think they've regressed a little bit, but still better than a lot of other offensive lines. You got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, two huge targets, I think, for these guys to throw to. Caleb Williams actually threw the ball to Drake London, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no, he didn't.
No, he missed him by a year.
He missed him by a year. So,
yeah.
I'm mistaken on that one. But I think there's a lot of positives for the Falcons in the offseason because if there's one thing that I felt that we just consistently kept doing was we just kept beating ourselves. That was it. Like there weren't too many games where we got beat. Like we beat ourselves. So quarterback, wide receiver number 2, I think are going to be my 2 personal go-to options in the first round. If hypothetically Rome Odunze is off the board and all 3 quarterbacks are off the board, assuming also Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, then that's where I would be okay of going with an edge rusher or maybe even trading back and getting some more draft capital and then taking an edge rusher later on.
Yeah,
a lot of different ways I think the Falcons could go here. All of that's going to be dictated to on what their head coach is going to be.
Yeah, and that's where I think it all starts with the head coach. We kind of talked a little bit about that with like the Panthers, where it's like they need to start everything with the head coach, right? And the Chargers as well. Like everything, it's a domino effect. Once you get the head coach, then all the players will kind of start to fall into place for the team's outlook in the next season. And I think definitely if Justin Fields is on the block, is on the trading block, I think that's the route that you guys would go. But I still am going to kind of stand by I think NFL teams are going to learn that if you don't have, and granted, I do agree with you, the Falcons have a lot more pieces than the Panthers did. But I still, I don't think teams are going to be trading up with King's ransoms anymore to go get those players, unless it's like a weird scenario where it is like the 49ers who had a really bad year just like due to injuries, and like they get to 12 and it's like, all right, well, what if we could really go up and like get this guy and add him to this already loaded roster of players, and like in that type of situation, whereas like teams at like 8 or 9 that are kind of middling and not that I think the Falcons are an above average team in the NFL. They just didn't play like it this year because you said they keep beating themselves. But if you give up your 8th overall pick, if you're comparing it to the Panthers trade, you'd probably have to give up a Drake London in that scenario, your young wide receiver, and then another future first. And it's like, all right, well, that doesn't help your team, in my opinion, in the future, because now you have a Caleb Williams coming in throwing to basically Kyle Pitts, and that's it.
So, and that's where I think that's where it's uniquely different for the Falcons compared to the Panthers, because I think they were trying to game the system a little bit and move on from DJ Moore, who they probably couldn't think was going to be able to be re-signed, or when they did, it was going to be a lot of money. But with Drake London, though, like I think he's young enough, and I don't know if he's nearly as proven. I think it would still take more to give up, like if you just included Drake London in that package. I also think, too, the Falcons, I don't want them to give up Drake London. I would be pissed if we traded up and gave away Drake London and a future first, because then I think that would be recreating the similar scenario what the Panthers did by giving away one of your star players. I would rather just go and give up 2025 and a 2026 first-round pick, because in theory, Caleb Williams is your franchise quarterback. You have a franchise quarterback, franchise running back, franchise receiver, franchise tight end. You have your franchise corner. You're going to have your franchise defensive tackle. You're going to have your franchise free safety, Jesse Bates, who I think was one of the best, or one of the more underrated free agency signings in the entire offseason. You're going to have all those guys under contract for 2024, and a majority of them under 2025 at least. So I think you're going to have a good foundation for your team, especially skill position player-wise, over the next couple of years. Compared to the Panthers, they didn't have that at all. Like,
Have that. And you guys have a better offensive line and a much better run game than what they offer. So that's what I mean is by, like, I don't think you guys will be – it would be like the Panthers. I just think that's going to scare a lot of teams away from offering up those picks, because – so the Panthers do have a good defense. I would say your guys' defense, while it's kind of comparing apples to oranges, are like similar level of play, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're a little bit more aggressive. You guys kind of play that deep zone. That's why Jesse Bates, I think, has done really well in your system, because he's been able to roam around a lot. And so, like, if you guys come in, Grady Jarrett doesn't come back from his ACL next year just because he's had some complications. You don't get that edge rusher that you want. All of a sudden, Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell go down with injuries, and it's like, all right, now this defense is bottom 10 in the league. Then you don't have. Granted, I guess in this scenario, you still have Drake London. It's just, I think it's easy to say, like, oh, we'll just give up 3 first-round picks and then, like, deal with the consequences, but those consequences could set your franchise back longer. Example A is the Carolina Panthers. They were not a franchise that was ready for that move yet. I just think teams that have other needs, and I do think the Falcons have other needs, right? Because I think getting a second wide receiver, continuing to solidify this offensive line, it is something. Getting that edge rusher as well is something else that they need. And so it's more complicated than just, we need a quarterback, let's go up and get him, right?
Well, fair. It is more complicated than just that, and you don't want to be reckless about it. But I also think it's on a case by case basis. If Falcons are in a win now situation, and I think they're in a very unique situation with the firing of Arthur Smith, who. It's hypothetically, so if we're going down to hypotheticals, like you went down the injury route, like this could set the franchise back. Like, if all of a sudden
that's just what happened to the Panthers, and now they're giving up the first overall pick.
I know, but then let's say with what has been done and the way Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, how they restructured the team, got in great players on affordable contracts, and have kind of gotten themselves out of cap purgatory, so to say. Now they've honestly set up that opportunity to go and get that guy, to go and get the face of the franchise, that quarterback, something that has been plaguing the team over the past couple of years. People talk about, like, it was time to move on from Matt Ryan. Yes, he was getting older, but also, too, that team was void of talent. He did have 20 to 25% of the cap hit on the team that year, so they couldn't really go out and get anybody to help improve. They've gotten themselves out of that, and they've gotten a good overall foundational set of this team. They just need to go get a young guy, I think, to go and lead the team. So if they go and do that through the draft, or go and do it through trading for Justin Fields, and I'm trying to think, I'm blanking on somebody else who I think is going to
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. That's who we had talked about. That's the ultimate win now because he's only going to have a couple more years left anyways. But I think Justin Fields, would be obviously the number one option, I think, for a lot of teams, and particularly the Falcons. He's from here. He went to Harrison High School, not too far from us. That's in Kennesaw. We're in Woodstock. So I think that would be really neat to have him come home. And he played well. He's much improved from over these past couple of years. So Falcons got a lot of interesting things, I think, to go on or to think about. One, they got to get a head coach. I think from there it's going to be head coach. Then they're going to determine the quarterback. I think we're going to know that. I think we're going to know their decision before the combine. I think they're going to pick a head coach probably end of January.
Oh, yeah. You'll know the head coach.
No. Sorry. What I was talking about, the quarterback. I think they're either going to trade up or they're going to trade for Justin Fields. I don't think they're going to wait till draft day. I think they're going to want to control their own destiny. And I don't know if they want to get into a draft day bidding war to try and move up to 5 to the Chargers if Jaden Daniels falls. I don't know if they're going to want to do that. I think they're going to want to go into the combine to be like, no, we have control of our guy. Like, we're going to have the number 1 overall pick, and we get to decide what happens. Or we have Justin Fields, and let's go see what we want to do with this 8th overall pick.
Yeah,
if they still have it, if they don't end up trading it for Justin Fields.
I don't. I mean, if they do, I think they would be like, all right, Chicago, we'll give you 42 and 8 for Justin Fields and 9. Like, I don't think that Justin Fields would demand that kind of capital.
I don't think so either. And there's a fun video I want to do just about like the historical trends of this, of like teams trading like their former like first round quarterback still in their rookie deal since they had the number 1 overall pick. Like, and there's some intriguing ones that are kind of some comp draft trades. I feel so, but in general though, yeah, I don't think I definitely a day 2 pick at least for sure, and I think it'll be multiple picks, but no more than a day 2 pick, and maybe like a round 2 and a round 3. I think.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you think the Atlanta Falcons should do this offseason. Should they go after Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, trade up in the draft? Should they not draft a quarterback at all? Do you like Desmond Ridder? If you do, you are wrong that you like Desmond Ridder. So go ahead, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe. Help Tyler and I reach our goal of getting to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL postseason. And on that, we will see you guys next time.